question. Discuss the scope of criminology as the science dealing with the study of criminal law, forensics, and criminal investigation. Answer. Criminology, as an interdisciplinary science, plays a pivotal role in understanding crime, criminal behavior, and the mechanisms that society uses to respond to crime. The scope of criminology is vast and evolving, especially as it intersects with the domains of criminal law, forensic science, and criminal investigation. Criminology and criminal law. At its core, criminology informs and is informed by criminal law, which is the body of rules established by a state to define crimes and set punishments. Criminologists study how laws are made, why certain behaviors are criminalized, and how laws are applied in society. For example, Emile Durkheim's theory of functionalism suggests that crime is a normal part of society and plays a role in social evolution. According to Durkheim, the definition of crime changes over time, depending on the collective conscience of a society. This theory explains why same-sex relationships, once criminalized in many countries, are now legal and socially accepted in others. Criminology helps legislators understand the social causes of crime. In Pakistan, for instance, laws relating to cybercrime, such as the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act, PECA, 2016, were shaped by understanding emerging digital crimes, like online harassment, identity theft, and hacking. Criminological research into the socio-psychological profile of cybercriminals directly contributes to more effective legislation. Criminology and forensic science forensics is another domain intricately linked with criminology. While forensic science provides the technological tools to detect and analyze physical evidence, criminology provides the theoretical and behavioral framework to interpret it. For example, rational choice theory, which argues that criminals weigh costs and benefits before committing crimes, can be applied in forensic investigations to understand motives. When combined with forensic data like blood spatter analysis, DNA profiling, and digital forensics, criminologists can help reconstruct crime scenes and predict offender behavior. Take the case of the Zainab Ansari murder case in Kasur, Pakistan, 2018. It was through a combination of forensic DNA testing and behavioral profiling that the serial offender Imran Ali was apprehended. Criminologists contributed by analyzing offender patterns and linking previous unsolved cases to this one. This case also raised public awareness and pushed for legal reforms like Zainab Alert Bill, aimed at protecting children from abduction and sexual abuse. Criminology and criminal investigation. Criminology also plays a fundamental role in criminal investigation, which involves collecting evidence, identifying suspects, and preparing cases for prosecution. Investigators increasingly rely on criminological theories to understand criminal minds and motives. For example, Edwin Sutherland's differential association theory posits that people learn criminal behavior through association with others. Investigators use this theory to trace criminal networks, especially in organized crime and gang-related investigations. The recent surge in drug trafficking in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan, has been analyzed through the lens of this theory, revealing how young men are recruited and socialized into criminal enterprises by peers or relatives. In terrorism investigations, criminology offers tools to profile radicalization. Theories such as social disorganization theory, which links high crime rates to neighborhood decay, poverty, and lack of institutions, help explain why certain areas become breeding grounds for militancy. This has been critical in counterterrorism operations in areas like North Waziristan, where the breakdown of local governance provided fertile ground for extremist recruitment. Integrated role and future scope. Criminology does not work in isolation, but integrates with other disciplines: law, psychology, sociology, computer science, and public health. The emergence of AI in crime detection, predictive policing, and digital surveillance demands a new generation of criminologists who are tech-savvy, yet grounded in ethical and legal frameworks. Question: suggest measures to control robberies, dacoities, and urban street criminality in Pakistan. Answer: multi-pronged strategy grounded in established theoretical frameworks. Routine activity theory, social disorganization theory, strain theory, rational choice theory, and environmental criminology, to curb urban robberies, dacoities, and street crime in Pakistan. Drawing on examples, facts, and figures, these measures combine situational prevention, community engagement, intelligence-led policing, socioeconomic interventions, legislative reform, and technological innovation. First, situational crime prevention. A. Target hardening and guardianship improved street lighting. Studies show that well-lit streets reduce street crime by up to 30%. In Karachi's Liari area, a 2019 lamp installation pilot saw nighttime robberies drop by 25%. CCTV and surveillance. Lahore's Safe City project installed over 4,000 cameras and integrated them into a central command center. Between 2018 to 2021, reported street robberies in monitored zones fell by 18%. Access control and defensible space. Installing bollards and gated entries around markets and residential blocks in Islamabad has disrupted escape routes for offenders, contributing to a 15% decline in quick-grab thefts. Environmental design, CPTAD, natural surveillance, pruning street trees, trimming hedges, and orienting shops to face alleys increase eyes on the street. In Rawalpindi's Raja Bazaar, decluttering sightlines corresponded with a 12% reduction in purse snatch incidents. Territorial reinforcement, clear demarcation of public versus private spaces through signage, pavement treatments, and low fencing, signals informal guardianship, deterring potential offenders. Second, community-oriented policing, citizen police liaison committees, CPLC model. Originating in Sindh, CPLCs bring residents and police together to share intelligence, conduct foot patrols, and monitor crime hotspots. In Hyderabad district, CPLC-led patrols saw street crimes decline by 22% over 2 years. Neighborhood watch programs, training volunteer block captains to report suspicious activities via WhatsApp groups enhances rapid response and fosters collective efficacy. A core concept in social disorganization theory.B. School and youth outreach, after-school clubs and sports programs. Targeting at-risk youth with structured activities reduces unstructured peer gatherings, identified by routine activity theory as ripe for crime. A 2022 pilot in Karachi's Orangi town engaged 150 youths and recorded 0 juvenile involvement in robberies over 6 months. Third, intelligence-led and predictive policing, crime mapping and hotspot analysis, GIS-based analysis of robbery data, e.g., 2023 police figures showing 70% of street robberies clustered in Gulshan-e-Iqbal, enables deployment of mobile patrol units during peak hours. Focused deterrence. Collaborating with community leaders to identify recidivist offenders and warn them of targeted enforcement, coupled with support services, produces a pulling levers effect that has cut repeat robberies by 28% in test areas. Fourth, socioeconomic and developmental interventions, vocational training and microcredit. Under strain theory, economic deprivation fuels acquisitive crimes. Programs like Punjab's Kamyab Jawan offer skills training in trades, e.g., welding, repair, and small loans. Graduates exhibit a 40% lower arrest rate for street crimes. Urban renewal and poverty alleviation. Upgrading informal settlements with sanitation, electricity, and legal land tenure reduces social disorganization, strengthening community bonds and informal social controls. Fifth, legislative and judicial reforms. Fast-track courts for violent property crimes. Expedited trials and clear sentencing guidelines, e.g., minimum 5-year sentences for armed dacoity. Increase the perceived risk of apprehension and punishment, consistent with rational choice theory. Bail restrictions and electronic monitoring. Restricting bail for high-risk repeat offenders and employing GPS anklets for conditional release. Further incapacitate career criminals. 6. Technological innovations. Panic button apps and community hotlines. Apps like 1022 in Punjab allow instant alerts to the nearest police station. In the first year, over 8,000 distress calls were logged, leading to a 16% increase in on-scene interventions. Drones for rapid response. Drone patrols deployed over congested markets in Faisalabad achieve 80% faster arrival times than vehicle units during peak traffic hours. Question: how juvenile delinquency can be reduced through the institutional role, professional counseling, and increased care? Answer: Introduction. Juvenile delinquency, illegal or antisocial behavior by individuals under the age of 18, is a growing concern for policymakers, communities, and criminologists alike. Reducing juvenile crime requires a holistic approach involving institutional frameworks, targeted counseling, and an increase in emotional and social care. 1. Strengthening the institutional role. 1.1. Schools as frontline preventers. According to Travis Hershey's social bond theory, when youth form strong attachments to school, teachers, and prosocial peers, the likelihood of delinquency decreases. Effective school-based interventions include PBIS, positive behavioral interventions and supports, reduced disciplinary referrals by 30% in many U.S. districts. U.S. Department of Education, 2019. Extracurricular activities. Sports, arts, and clubs strengthen commitment to prosocial norms. Teacher-student relationships, a protective factor against dropping out and criminal behavior. 1.2. Reforming juvenile justice institutions. Shifting from punitive to rehabilitative models within juvenile justice systems. Restorative justice programs. Encourage accountability, empathy, and reintegration. Recidivism. Impact. These approaches have led to 20 to 25% reductions in reoffending. Sherman and Strang, 2007. Youth courts and diversion programs. Provide alternatives to incarceration and emphasize second chances. 1.3. Community-based institutional support ceasefire Chicago model. Involved trained community mediators who reduced shootings by 41% between 2015 to 2018. University of Chicago Crime Lab. Youth organizations, e.g., YMCAs, faith groups, offer mentoring, education, and safe recreation. 2. Providing professional counseling. 2.1. Addressing psychological strains. According to Robert Agnew's general strain theory, when youth experience failure or negative stimuli, they may resort to crime as a coping mechanism. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, helps youth reframe negative thoughts and improve decision-making. Results: CBT in juvenile detention reduced recidivism by 25%. Lipsey, 2009. 2.2 Specialized Programs and Evidence-Based Models. Aggression Replacement Training, ART, combines anger control, moral reasoning, and social skills. Outcomes: 20 to 30% reduction in reoffending. Goldstein et al., 1998. Screening and dual diagnosis. 65% of detained youth have at least one psychiatric disorder. National Center for Juvenile Justice. Integrated therapy addresses trauma, addiction, and behavior issues. 2.3 School-based counseling integration schools that offer on-site counseling services alongside academic support report lower suspension and expulsion rates. Florida DJJ Program. Combined tutoring and counseling, achieving a 15% reduction in reoffending. Florida Department of Juvenile Justice, 2020. 3. Increasing care through family and community support. 3.1. Family-based interventions. Criminological ecological theory emphasizes the importance of microsystems like the family in shaping youth behavior. Functional family therapy, FFT, weekly structured sessions with parents and siblings. Outcomes: 14% lower justice involvement. Alexander and Parsons, 1982. Multisystemic therapy, MST, focuses on the broader social network, including peers and schools. 3.2 Mentoring programs. Big Brothers. Big Sisters, 46% less likely to use drugs. 27% less likely to engage in violent behavior. Tierney et al., 1995. Mentors provide emotional support, guidance, and stability, especially critical for youth lacking parental presence. 3.3 Community and economic support. Wraparound services include job training, meals, housing, and educational help. UNICEF, Brazil's Centros de Convivência, delivered daily care and life skills in poor neighborhoods. Resulted in 35% fewer self-reported delinquent acts. UNICEF, 2021. Question: what challenges are faced by police in controlling crime and maintaining law and order in the country? Answer: police across many countries, especially in developing nations like Pakistan, face a range of challenges in maintaining law and order. These challenges can be understood through criminological theories such as strain theory, conflict theory, social disorganization theory, and labeling theory. 1. Lack of resources. Police forces often operate with limited manpower and poor infrastructure. The UN recommends 220 officers per 100,000 people, but Pakistan has only about 186. This shortage limits patrols, slows investigations, and weakens response times. 2. Corruption and weak accountability. Transparency International ranked Pakistan 140 out of 180 countries in 2023 for corruption. Many citizens believe police investigations are influenced by bribes. Conflict theory explains this as the outcome of power being controlled by elites, leading to injustice for marginalized groups. 3. Political interference. Police officers are frequently pressured by political actors to target opponents. During the 2023 elections in Punjab, police were used to arrest activists without legal justification. This undermines public trust and rule of law, supporting the view of strain theory that people may resort to resistance when legal systems fail them. 4. Poor training and colonial legacy. Most police still follow outdated colonial-era systems. Only 20% have formal training in community policing, as per a 2022 survey. Social disorganization theory shows that without positive community interaction, police fail to prevent crime effectively. 5. Outdated technology and slow forensic cybercrime is rising rapidly, but police lack technical skills and tools. In 2022, digital banking fraud caused over $250 million in losses in Pakistan. Forensic labs are backlogged, with delays over 3 months. Strain theory explains how lack of access to legal economic means pushes some into cybercrime. 6. Public mistrust. In regions like Balochistan, 40% of youth feel unfairly targeted by police. This discourages cooperation and reporting of crime. Labeling theory explains how constant suspicion can cause individuals to adopt criminal identities over time. 7. Rise of organized and transnational crime. Pakistan is a major transit point for drug smuggling. Over 500,000 kilograms of heroin moves through its borders annually. Terrorist incidents, although reduced, still numbered over 210 in 2024. Lack of coordination between police and intelligence agencies weakens anti-crime efforts. 8. Mental health and stress among police officers. Police work involves long hours, exposure to violence, and public pressure, often leading to psychological burnout. According to a 2023 report by the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, 68% of officers reported symptoms of anxiety and stress. Poor mental health impacts judgment, increasing incidents of excessive force or negligence. 9. Gender bias and lack of inclusion. Women make up less than 2% of the police force in Pakistan, limiting their reach in gender-sensitive cases such as domestic violence or harassment. Feminist criminology emphasizes the need for inclusive policing. When half the population cannot approach the police comfortably, it affects both justice delivery and crime prevention. These challenges, ranging from structural weaknesses to social bias, highlight how deeply law enforcement is connected to broader social, political, and economic systems. Why crime scene is important for investigators. What are the crime scene search patterns? Introduction. The crime scene is the starting point of any criminal investigation. It is where the story of the crime begins and often ends. A well-managed crime scene can make the difference between solving a case or letting it go cold. It is a physical space where investigators collect clues, analyze patterns, and reconstruct the chain of events. Importance of crime scene in criminal investigations. One foundation of evidence collection. The famous Locard's exchange principle states, "Every contact leaves a trace." This foundational idea in forensic science means that perpetrators always leave something behind: hair, skin, fibers, or fingerprints, and might also take something with them, like dirt or blood. According to the FBI, DNA and fingerprint evidence helped solve nearly 84% of homicide cases in the U.S. in 2019. In the Golden State Killer case, DNA evidence from crime scenes decades apart was used to identify and arrest Joseph DeAngelo after 40 years. Second scene. Integrity determines case outcomes. Contaminated or poorly managed crime scenes can lead to evidence loss, misinterpretation, or even wrongful convictions. In the John Benet Ramsey case, The crime scene was heavily contaminated by family members and police before proper forensic analysis began. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Research shows that improper scene management reduces conviction rates by up to 25%, especially in violent crimes. 5 reasons why the crime scene is important for investigators. 1. Primary source of physical evidence. The crime scene contains critical physical evidence such as fingerprints, DNA, weapons, footprints, and bloodstains. This evidence can directly link a suspect to the crime or help reconstruct the sequence of events. For example, in the Golden State Killer case, DNA left at multiple crime scenes decades earlier was used to identify the killer. 2. Preserves the context of the crime. A properly secured and documented crime scene maintains the original condition in which the crime occurred. This helps investigators understand how the crime unfolded, whether it was premeditated or spontaneous, violent or stealthy. Any disturbance can destroy vital clues and affect case outcomes. 3. Supports criminological theories and profiling crime scenes often reveal behavioral patterns and motives of the offender, supporting theories like routine activity theory or behavioral evidence analysis. For example, an organized crime scene may point to a planned and experienced offender, while a chaotic one suggests panic or emotional instability. 4. Helps identify the victim and offender. Evidence from the scene can establish the identity of the victim and lead to the suspect. Personal belongings, surveillance footage, or DNA can link individuals to the location, especially when no eyewitnesses are available. In many missing person cases, items recovered at the scene are the first clues to who was involved. 5. Crucial for courtroom success. Properly collected and preserved crime scene evidence is admissible in court and strengthens the prosecution's case. Judges and juries rely heavily on physical evidence to reach verdicts. According to forensic science studies, cases with strong crime scene evidence have up to a 70% higher conviction rate than those without. Crime scene search patterns. To maximize evidence collection, investigators use specific search patterns tailored to the environment and type of crime. 1. Grid search pattern. Also called the double line method, this involves searching the area in horizontal lines, followed by a second pass in vertical lines. Ideal for large, open outdoor areas like parks, fields, or forests. Studies show grid searches recover 30% more trace evidence compared to random searching. 2. Spiral search pattern. The searcher moves in a spiral from the outside inwards or from the center outwards. Useful in open areas with few boundaries, such as beaches or lake shores. Especially effective when evidence may be scattered in a circular pattern, like after an explosion or drowning. 3. Strip or linear search pattern. Investigators walk in straight lines across the crime scene in equal intervals. Best for narrow confined spaces like hallways, roadsides, or alleys. Frequently used in hit-and-run cases to collect glass fragments, paint chips, or skid marks. 4th zone or quadrant search pattern. The area is divided into zones or rooms, and each is searched individually. Ideal for complex scenes like houses, apartments, or public event areas. Used during the Boston Marathon bombing investigation to ensure every sector was processed efficiently and thoroughly. 5. Wheel or ray search pattern. Investigators start at a central point and move outwards in straight lines like the spokes of a wheel. Effective for identifying evidence in blasts, shootings, or point-of-attack situations. Question: How do international policing and monitoring organizations control human trafficking? Answer. 1. Legal frameworks and conventions. International bodies, like the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, promote adherence to the 2000 Palermo Protocol, which defines human trafficking and obligates 187 signatory states to criminalize trafficking, provide victim protection, and enhance cross-border cooperation. From a strain theory perspective, harmonized laws reduce structural strain by closing legal loopholes exploited by traffickers, thus decreasing motivation for deviance. 2. Data collection and intelligence sharing organizations such as Interpol's Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation (HTCE) unit maintain global databases on traffickers, stolen travel documents, and modus operandi. In 2023, Interpol recorded over 1,200 trafficking hotspots worldwide. By applying rational choice theory, sharing real-time intelligence raises perceived risk for offenders, deterring attempts. 3. Joint operations and task forces. Europol's EMPACT, European Multidisciplinary Platform Against Criminal Threats, supports joint operations like Operation Blue Orchid, which, in 2022, led to 150 arrests and the rescue of 200 victims in EU countries. From the routine activities standpoint, such coordinated patrols and investigations disrupt the convergence of motivated offenders, suitable targets, and lack of guardianship. Capacity building and training. The Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime has trained over 5,000 law enforcement officers since 2020 on victim-centered approaches and investigative techniques. Social learning theory suggests that professional training changes officers' attitudes, fostering ethical norms that reduce deviant accommodation of trafficking networks. 5. Victim Identification Protocols. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, collaborates with national police to implement standardized screening tools. In Southeast Asia, these protocols increased victim identification by 35% between 2021 and 2024. Drawing on labeling theory, humane identification practices prevent secondary victimization and stigmatization, improving reintegration and testimony cooperation. 6. Financial tracking and asset seizure. The Egmont Group of Financial Intelligence Units, FIUs, enables 164 member countries to trace proceeds of trafficking. In 2023 alone, Europol reported 50 million euros seized from trafficking rings. According to routine activities theory, removing economic rewards diminishes offenders' perceived benefits, lowering incentive. 7. Public-private partnerships. Interpol collaborates with airlines, shipping companies, and banks under Operation Liberté, monitoring suspicious bookings and transactions. In one 2022 case, a financial institution reported anomalous transfers, leading to dismantling of a Southeast Asian trafficking syndicate. Rational choice theory asserts that reducing offenders' safe havens increases likelihood of detection. 8. Awareness campaigns and hotlines. The ASEAN Chiefs of National Police launched a regional hotline in 2021, receiving 10,000-plus tips through 2024. Mass media campaigns, highlighting the Global Slavery Index's estimate of 27.6 million modern slavery victims worldwide, reduce public apathy. From social control theory, community awareness increases social cohesion, making communities less conducive to deviant subcultures. 9. cross-border arrest warrants and extradition Interpol issues. Red notices against top trafficking suspects. Between 2022 to 2024, 580 red notices were active for human trafficking offenders. Efficient extradition treaties, such as EU Framework Decision 2002/584, ensure swift transfer of perpetrators. According to deterrence theory, credible threat of extradition and long sentences, up to 20 years in many jurisdictions, raises the cost of offending. Question: terrorism and radicalization continue to pose threat to global peace, economy, and stability. Discuss. Answer: 1. Threat to global peace. 1. Mass casualties and displacement terrorist attacks cause immense human suffering. From 2001 to 2020, over 200,000 people were killed in terrorism-related incidents globally. In Syria alone, conflict driven by radical groups killed more than 500,000. According to strain theory, socioeconomic pressures can drive individuals toward violent extremism, worsening humanitarian crises and global peace. Second, regional spillover terrorist groups often expand beyond borders. ISIS fighters moved from Syria and Iraq to Afghanistan, Africa, and Southeast Asia. Boko Haram's alliance with ISIS spread violence across West Africa. Social learning theory helps explain how extremist behaviors are imitated across regions, escalating conflicts. Third, strained diplomacy radicalization affects international relations. After September 11th, U.S.-Pakistan ties worsened over counterterrorism strategies, especially drone strikes. Disputes like these weaken global cooperation, hindering peacebuilding efforts. Fourth, breakdown of social trust communities affected by radicalization suffer internal divisions. The 2015 Paris attacks increased suspicion toward Muslim minorities in Europe. Social disorganization theory suggests that weakened community ties make people more vulnerable to radical ideologies, eroding social peace. Second, threat to the economy. First, direct financial costs. Terrorist attacks lead to heavy economic losses. The 9/11 attacks caused over $2 trillion in damages. In 2019 alone, global terrorism cost the world $90 billion. These losses strain national budgets and recovery efforts. Second, disruption of investment and trade terrorism creates risk that scares away foreign investors. After repeated bombings, Pakistan's FDI dropped from $3.88 billion in 2017 to $1.81 billion in 2018. Attacks on infrastructure, like oil pipelines and ports, disrupt global supply chains. 3. Decline in tourism. Countries reliant on tourism suffer heavily. Tunisia lost over $730 million in 2015 due to attacks on tourists. Kenya's tourism sector collapsed after major terror incidents, costing hundreds of thousands of jobs. 4. Rising security costs. Governments divert massive funds to counterterrorism. The U.S. spent $91 billion on homeland security in 2020. Poor countries like Nigeria allocate up to 25% of national budgets to fighting terrorism, money that could be used for education or healthcare. Third threat to stability. First, weakening of state authority. Radical groups often run parallel governments. Al-Shabaab in Somalia taxed locals and enforced their own laws in areas where the government had no presence. This erodes legitimacy and undermines rule of law. 2. Online radicalization. Terrorist recruitment has moved online. Between 2017 and 2020, 60% of foreign fighters in Syria were radicalized through the Internet. Routine activities theory explains how easy online access enables extremist recruitment and propaganda. 3. Fragile or failing states. Prolonged terrorism destroys governance. ISIS's occupation of Mosul in 2014 displaced over 1 million people and destroyed billions in infrastructure. Such damage creates a power vacuum and long-term instability. 4. Social polarization and backlash. Terror attacks often lead to discrimination against entire communities. Policies like the burqa ban in France increased alienation among Muslim populations. Labeling theory shows how this stigmatization fuels further radicalization and social unrest. Conclusion: terrorism and radicalization are not just acts of violence. They are deeply rooted in social, political, and economic grievances. Criminological theories help us understand the drivers behind them. To ensure peace, protect the economy, and maintain stability, the world must address inequality, improve community resilience, and counter extremist narratives both online and offline. Question: what is the role of FIA in controlling organized criminality in Pakistan? Answer: the Federal Investigation Agency, FIA, was founded in 1974 under the FIA Act. It operates as Pakistan's premier federal body for investigating transnational, financial, and organized crime. Through a combination of intelligence-led policing, legal authority, and specialized wings, the FIA targets criminal syndicates that threaten state security, public order, and economic stability. 1. Intelligence-led policing. Rational choice theory. The FIA's Criminal Intelligence Unit aggregates data from provincial offices, Interpol, and financial institutions to map criminal networks. For example, in 2023, FIA intelligence helped dismantle a Karachi-based heroin ring trafficking over 150 kilograms of narcotics, valued at 2.5 billion Pakistani rupees, arresting 20 suspects. By increasing perceived risks, potential offenders reassess costs versus benefits and often desist. 2. Cybercrime Wing. Social control theory. Under the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act 2016, the FIA's Cybercrime Wing registers and prosecutes online fraud, money laundering, and hate speech. In 2024 alone, more than 9,000 cases were opened. The wing secured convictions of 1,350 individuals, signaling that digital spaces are policed, which strengthens formal social bonds and deters cyber syndicates. 3rd. Financial Crime Wing. Conflict theory. Organized crime often leverages financial channels for money laundering. Between 2021 and 2024, this wing froze assets worth approximately 18 billion Pakistani rupees, or $100 million tied to shell companies used by politically exposed persons, PEPs. Operation Zabardast, in early 2024, recovered 3 billion Pakistani rupees from real estate tycoons suspected of embezzlement, challenging elite impunity. 4th, Anti-Human Trafficking and Smuggling Unit, Human Ecology Theory. Recognizing that poverty and displacement feed trafficking, this unit collaborates with UNODC and provincial authorities. In 2022 to 2023, the FIA rescued over 500 victims of sex and labor trafficking, registering 45 formal FIRs against networks operating between Sindh and the Gulf. This disrupts organized exploitation by intervening at ecological push and pull factors. 5. Anti-terrorism wing. Routine activity theory. Extremist groups often intersect with organized crime for funding. The ATW's intelligence-driven raids have busted networks smuggling weapons and funds. In late 2023, ATW arrested a financier in Quetta, moving 150 million Pakistani rupees across the Iran-Pakistan border. Subsequent probes linked those funds to Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP. By removing these facilitators, the FIA shuts down motivated offenders' access. 6th Immigration Wing. Situational Crime Prevention. By enforcing biometric checks and Interpol alerts at airports and land crossings, the FIA disrupts human smuggling and contraband flow. In 2023, over 30,000 fraudulent travel documents were intercepted at Karachi, Islamabad, and Lahore airports, reducing illegal border crossings by roughly 28% compared to 2021. This limits off-ramp opportunities for organized smuggling rings. 7. Anti-Corruption Unit, Strain Theory. Corruption in public offices creates fertile ground for syndicates. From January 2022 to December 2024, FIA's Anti-Corruption Unit registered over 1,200 cases involving bribery, forgery, and graft, resulting in the conviction of 215 public servants. By alleviating institutional strain and punishing rent-seeking behavior, the FIA weakens collusion between officials and organized mafias. 8. Special Crimes Wing. Network Theory. Addressing mafia-style extortion, kidnapping, and drug labs, the SCW uses network analysis to identify linchpin operatives. In mid-2023, SCW intelligence traced a methamphetamine cartel's supply chain in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, leading to the seizure of 20 kilograms of meth precursor chemicals and closure of 4 clandestine labs. Network disruption hampers criminal communication nodes. 9. Forensic Science Laboratories, Tech-Enabled Policing. Effective investigation of complex crimes requires forensic capacity. FIA's central lab processes roughly 1,200 samples monthly, ranging from digital forensics to narcotics analysis. In 2024, upgrading its DNA sequencing unit accelerated the solving of 120 homicide-linked organized crime cases. Tech integration strengthens evidentiary standards, increasing conviction rates to 67%. 10th. Multi-agency collaboration. Integrated control theory. Recognizing that no single agency can tackle sophisticated syndicates alone, the FIA coordinates with provincial police, military intelligence, FATF, and Interpol. In 2023, joint operations with Punjab Police led to 35 raids on forged document rings facilitating human smuggling, resulting in 150 arrests. These partnerships pool resources, intelligence, and jurisdictional reach, embodying an integrated social control mechanism.